I've been driving long-haul routes for over a decade. Same highways, same rest stops, same rules. And the most important rule was simple. I don't pick up people on the side of the road. Not at night. Not in the rain. Not ever. But rules feel different when the road is empty, the rain won't stop, and the figure standing by the shoulder doesn't move. Doesn't wave, doesn't panic, just waits. I noticed him at mile marker 41. The headlights caught the edge of a jacket, dark and heavy with rain. He stood slightly turned away from the road, head lowered, as if listening to something only he could hear. I passed him, then slowed. I told myself it was nothing, just another tired shape in the dark. But my foot eased off the gas anyway. The road was straight for miles, empty behind me, empty ahead. I checked the mirrors. He was still there. Same position. Same stillness. I pulled over without fully understanding why. The rain drummed against the cab as I leaned across and unlocked the passenger door. I expected him to hesitate. Most people do. He didn't. He opened the door and climbed in with a slow, careful movement, as if the space inside the truck had weight to it. The door closed. I waited for the sound of a seatbelt. It never came. I pulled back onto the highway. The cab filled with the smell of wet fabric and cold air. Not sweat. Not alcohol. Just rain and something faintly metallic like damp concrete. He sat perfectly still. I didn't look at him. Long-haul driving teaches you how to share silence. You learn when not to fill it. Still, the absence of movement beside me felt wrong. Not tense, just empty like a room after someone leaves. The windshield wipers moved in steady arcs. Left, right, 5 miles. That's all he needed. That's what I told myself. The road narrowed slightly, trees pressing closer to the shoulder. The rain thickened, the sound dulling everything outside the cab. I became aware of my breathing, of how loud it sounded in my own ears. I glanced at the side mirror. Nothing unusual. I glanced again. The passenger window showed only darkness and streaks of rain. No reflection. No outline. Just black glass. I focused forward. That's when the cold started. It wasn't the air conditioning. The vents were off. This cold was localized, sharp, unnatural. Spreading from the passenger seat across the center console, brushing my right arm like a breath. I felt it through my jacket. My grip tightened on the wheel. I told myself it was exhaustion. Night driving does that. It invents sensations, fills silence with meaning. Another mile passed, then another. The GPS chimed softly. 5 miles. I slowed. The shoulder widened slightly where the road bent. No buildings. No lights. Just trees and rain and darkness pressing in from all sides. I signaled and pulled over. The truck idled. I waited for movement. Nothing. I turned my head. The passenger seat was empty. The space beside me felt suddenly larger, like the cab had stretched. The door was closed. The window unbroken. The lock still down. I stared. I checked the floor. Nothing. Then I noticed the seatbelt. It was fastened. The strap lay taut across the empty seat, buckled cleanly into place. I knew it hadn't been like that before. My chest tightened as I reached out, fingers brushing the fabric. It was soaked. Not damp, wet. Cold enough to sting. Beneath it, the seat cushion glistened. A dark, uneven patch spread across the upholstery, as if something had been sitting there for a long time, leaking cold into the fabric. The air smelled sharper now. I unbuckled the seatbelt. It snapped back with a metallic click. The cold didn't fade. I sat there longer than I should have, watching the rain distort the world outside, half expecting the door to open on its own. Didn't. I drove the rest of the night in silence. No radio, no calls, just the sound of tires on wet asphalt and the faint awareness of an empty seat that felt occupied. At the next stop, I checked the passenger side again. The seat was dry. The smell was gone. Only the seatbelt lay twisted slightly, as if someone had let go of it in a hurry. I never picked up another hitchhiker after that. And every time I pass mile marker 41, I feel the temperature drop, just for a second, like something is waiting for another 5-mile ride. I told myself it was just fatigue. That's what you do when something doesn't fit reality. You try to shove it back into a box with a reasonable label and keep moving. But the road didn't let me forget. The next night, I was back on the same route. Different load. Same highway. I considered taking the southern bypass. It would have added an hour, maybe more. But routine has a gravity of its own. You follow what's familiar, even when it's wrong. The rain came again. Not a storm, just steady, patient rain. The kind that erases distance and makes everything feel closer than it is. I checked the passenger seat 3 times before reaching mile marker 41. Empty. Seatbelt loose. Dry. Still, I slowed without realizing it. The marker passed. Nothing stood on the shoulder. I exhaled, annoyed at myself, and pushed the accelerator. That's when the smell returned. Not strong. Just enough to notice. Wet fabric. Cold stone. My eyes flicked to the passenger seat. Still empty. But the temperature in the cab dropped again, not everywhere, just there. The air near the seat seemed thicker, heavier, like cold settling into a low place. I reached out and touched the seat. Dry. I pulled my hand back, heart beating harder than it should. The radio crackled to life on its own. Static. Then silence. I turned it off. I didn't stop again that night. But the dreams started after. I dreamed of the cab filled with rain. Not leaking, flooding. Water pooled on the floor, climbed the pedals, soaked into the seats. I sat frozen behind the wheel while the passenger seat slowly darkened. Fabric drinking in the cold. Something sat there. Couldn't see it. But the seatbelt tightened on its own. Click. I woke up gasping. My right side numb with cold. The dreams repeated for days. Always 5 miles. Always rain. Always the seatbelt. On the 4th night, I checked the logs. Long-haul drivers keep records. Times. Stops. Mile markers. I flipped back through weeks of entries until I found it. A note I didn't remember writing. Mile 41, brief stop. Passenger. The ink was smudged, as if written with damp fingers. Below it, something worse. A second entry. Mile 46, drop off. 5 miles. I stared at the page until the numbers blurred. I hadn't logged a passenger in years. I told myself I'd find answers the only way that ever works on the road. I went back. The rain was heavier that night. Sheets of it. I slowed as I approached mile marker 41, heart hammering against my ribs. The shoulder was empty at first. Then my headlights caught movement. Not a wave. Not a step. Just a shape resolving out of the rain already standing there. Same jacket. Same posture. Head lowered. Waiting. I didn't stop. I drove past, pulse roaring in my ears. In the mirror I saw him turn. Not his body. Just his head. Too far. Too smooth. The temperature dropped instantly. The seatbelt snapped tight beside me. The passenger door slammed shut. I didn't touch the brakes. The truck shook as if hit by a gust of wind. The smell flooded the cab. Cold pressed against my arm, my shoulder, my chest. Not weight, not force. Absence, like something pulling heat out of me. I focused on the road. 1 mile. 2. The GPS flickered. 3. My breath fogged the windshield from the inside. 4. I felt fingers brush my sleeve. I screamed. A raw, instinctive sound. And swerved onto the shoulder at mile 46. The engine idled. Silence swallowed everything. The pressure lifted. I turned. The seat was empty. The belt was fastened. The cushion was soaked again. Darker than before, water slowly dripping to the floor, forming a small, spreading puddle. In it, something froze. A thin layer of ice crept outward, cracking softly. I unbuckled the belt with shaking hands. The cold vanished instantly. I never drove that route again. I changed companies, changed schedules, day runs only. But some nights, when the rain is steady and the highway stretches empty ahead of me, I feel the temperature drop on my right side, just a little, and I know that somewhere out there, between mile 41 and mile 46, someone is still waiting. Not to be taken home, just to go 5 miles.